Ladies and gentlemen, we are now gathered to induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. You might say, where is my mind when I induct the newest member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame? Well, the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame has a rather unique journey in a short amount of time, not only that he's been on this earth, but also in the wrestling world. As his company, in many ways, is the little engine that could in BWU. When I think back to when I first got a chance to know this young man, just about a year ago, right around this time, his company, BWU, looked like it was about to be extinct, no more. But thankfully, those that certainly have a dream should never give up because he didn't give up. And they most recently had their first premium live event since 2022, which had generated hundreds and hundreds of views. And on top of that, his little company, BWU, went from a few hundred subscribers to nearly 900 subscribers on YouTube. And on top of that, have a Patreon page, which is generating them well over $50 a month. Basically, as I think about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, dreams can come true. But when I think about also our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I also have to look at the fact he very well might be the first person in the nearly 5 years that I have been doing wrestling coverage, in over 5 years to date. We've been involved in Sportswire Radio, that he is literally a triple champion as we speak. As he, of course, is holding his flagship championship, the BWU Heavyweight Championship. He is the FWA champion, not to be confused with a Japanese wrestling promotion, and also the Patreon Intercontinental Championship. Fitting, because after all, he's in Australia, I'm in New York. So certainly, he is kind of the Intercontinental Champion of Sportswire Radio. Maybe I should proclaim him that. Stay tuned after we officially induct him in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But his journey, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, is unique. Although I always say, for all of our members that have been inducted so far, over 50 to date, every story is different. But yet his story is also one that's unique because, well, as I say it time and time again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the man that I'm looking at that probably will take over my shoes here as your host and master of ceremonies on Sportswire Radio, because he is a host of one of the more popular shows that I've seen on Instagram and YouTube called the Wired Up Podcast, where he has interviewed a who's who of people, such as the likes of the destructive Jack Delta, of course, one of the most beloved backyard wrestlers in the sport, a man we had a day for, someone else who is in our Hall of Fame, Jackson Law. That's right, the law of the land, the brand new EBW champion of the world. Also, Aaron Blaze. Certainly cannot forget about Aaron Blaze. Even if you're an XCW fan, you definitely know that name, amongst a who's who of other people that have come on his podcast. And I'm always impressed with his abilities as his interview skills have improved, just as his wrestling skills have improved. And that's why I always say that definitely Ace Reed will be the man to take over and fill my shoes on Sportswire Radio in many ways, kind of like how over 30 years ago, when Jay Leno had filled in the shoes of Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show here, for those in America, that was kind of the popular late-night talk show. Ace Reed will definitely take over and do a better job, as I have with Sportswire Radio. But when I think about, obviously, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I like to think that with his age, he'll only be in many, many more Hall of Fames after this one. And that's why I'd like to make him one of our youngest Hall of Famers to date in Sportswire Radio, but also get ahead of the curve on all the other wrestling Hall of Fames out there and wrestling companies that honor those that certainly will go out and do inside and outside the ring what our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame has done. Because I can assure you There might be some that call themselves 8-time Hall of Famers or 4-time Hall of Famers, although I kind of think after 3 times, wouldn't that be enough? But, each to its own. And God bless. God bless everybody that's in the world of wrestling. But I have no doubt, though, that our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame will absolutely be in many more Hall of Fames. And I'd also probably want to point out that our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame might be the youngest person I've had on today that's probably bled a few, and certainly is probably going to bleed a lot more. And I guess for whatever reason, I'm thinking about the Slipknot song Wait and Bleed, because maybe our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame should have waited to bleed, but he loves this sport so much that he wanted to do whatever it took to win those 3 championships. And that's why he is definitely probably going to bleed a hell of a lot more. But though he also has some news that he just broke on his Instagram page, we'll certainly wait and talk about that in a little while. For the time being, as your master of ceremonies here, in inducting our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, right now is a time to celebrate the definition of all wrestling matters, and our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, who represents a country that may not get the recognition that it deserves, not only in the world of backyard wrestling, but in the world of all wrestling. Although I think at this point, after what we saw at Elimination Chamber and some woman you probably heard of called Rhea Ripley, and maybe even in a lesser note, the likes of Bronson Reed and Grayson Waller, I think Australia is doing a pretty good job in the world of wrestling. And I have no doubt that our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame will certainly join the ranks of those well-established and well-known wrestling stars that we see, especially Rhea Ripley. But ladies and gentlemen, I can go on and on and on about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our triple champion, and I can assure you we will go on and on and on about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, as I always do in all of these at this point, because we've done, 50 plus of them. But it is time to officially congratulate the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our second member of our 6th class, and our 52nd member, the host of the Wired Up podcast, and the reigning defending BWU, FWA, and Patreon Intercontinental Champion, Ace Reed. But Ace, before I officially welcome you into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame with a who's who of different people that are in, such as a man you're interviewing, I hear from a birdie, very soon, Omen Black, it is his show after all, the Nemesis James Taylor, also a man that does this, and Soldier GP, and R.P. Davis, the natural-born fighter, Luke Leyland, Dean Allmark, a man who's only defeated Jushin Thunder Liger and Bryan Danielson, Nicholas Crenson, the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, Josh Fletcher, Justin Parsley. Might be a guy you should have on Sportswire Radio real soon. Josh Allen, TBW, can't forget about them. We can go on and on and on about people that are in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But Ace, it is time to give you that introduction that you've heard many times here on Sportswire Radio because you've been on here twice before. But it's time to give it to you and officially welcome you as the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But before I do it, Ace, let's give you that champions-like introduction because everybody's waiting for it, you're waiting for it, and I'm ready for it. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one, global sports show, the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our second member of our 6th class, and the 52nd member, the host of the Wired Up podcast, the reigning, defending BWU, FWA, and Patreon Intercontinental Champion. His name is congratulations. You're officially a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
Man, I am honored, Mr. Bryce. I mean, I feel like I've earned it. I feel like I've earned all 3 of these championships. And honestly, it is unfortunate when I broke the news about my foot, but I think after that, I'm in a pretty better mood.
Oh, well, you know what? As I said, we'll certainly get to the breaking news. We'll certainly talk about current events in BWU in a few minutes, but the first part of the interview, as I always do with everybody else that's been here and inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, it's a celebration. It's basically to celebrate your journey. Because I stated, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's is unique, but yours is certainly one of the more unique ones because obviously of your age, but also right around this time last year, you didn't know what your future was. You didn't know if BWU was going to exist. You didn't know if you were going to go out there and wrestle again. And yet here you are. You're a triple champion. You've got the Wired Up podcast. You got some big names coming on and all over the world. And I have to ask you the question, as I always do, the first one to start off tonight. What does it mean to you, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, Ace Reed, what does it mean to you now to officially be in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
I mean, it's such an honor. I mean, I've been a big fan of yours for, I think, pretty much a year now, over a year, to be honest. And I feel like I've gave you the right support, and I could say the same with you to me as well. And you've definitely helped me out on the Wired Up podcast. You've helped me get some big names on my show, like Jack Delta and Jackson Law. But it is definitely an honor, and I was not expecting to be in a Hall of Fame. Like, it's my first ever time being in a Hall of Fame too, so it does definitely feel like an honor.
Well, as I said in my speech, I have no doubt that you'll be in many other Hall of Fames. And although there are people out there, which I'm still trying to figure out how many Hall of Fames are out there, there's, one guy that's in our Hall of Fame, and God bless him, God bless people that are in this great sport. But, he's in 8 Hall of Fames. I have to wonder, is it like, it's C2K. He's an 8-time Hall of Famer, which I'm kind of wondering. I would think after 2 or 3 times in the Hall of Fame, it might be a bit much, but apparently he's an 8-time Hall of Famer. Love C2K, but certainly 8 times is, a lot. I don't know if there's anybody in anything in life that's an 8-time. I would think 2 or 3 times would be enough, but God bless. Obviously, I'm not in the business to judge. C2K is a very great guy. He's got a show out there right now. And I want to echo CJ Black, the good guy, the ROEW heavyweight champion, which we'd like to induct him in the Hall of Fame very soon. Hopefully he would like to be in our Hall of Fame, but he says Ace Reed for president. Although I think in Australia, we'd have to name you prime minister, because in America, we are having a presidential election this year. And I think there are people that might want an alternative to kind of the 2, it looks like, main choices for president this year, between the man that used to be the president and the man that's the current president. But you would certainly be a great alternative, but maybe for prime minister in Australia. Maybe we can make you prime minister of Australia. How about that?
Yeah, doesn't sound like a terrible idea.
I would certainly echo it, because you could do more for wrestling. But, obviously Ace will present to you something in a few minutes. And, being in the Hall of Fame is obviously a great honor. I want to congratulate you. I want to thank you for all that you do here in this sport. But you did mention the Wired Up podcast, and I actually want to promote that for a few minutes before I get into some current stuff in BW, because a lot I want to talk about Jimmy Nash. I want to talk Mute. I want to talk about the Fight Night press conference. But we have some big shows coming up, and you did kind of mention that yes, I might have helped you got a few friends of Sportswire Radio onto the show, but you got some really huge names coming on in future shows for the Wired Up podcast, and I would like to know who those names are, and maybe for the audience so they could tune in.
Well, for people that don't know, I announced the next 4 guests of the Wired Up podcast on the BWD Fight Night press conference, but considering this is Sportswire Radio, I'll announce it once again. Our 17th guest on the Wired Up podcast is going to be a man that you're no stranger to, Thomas Price, and that is the Tribal Cheese. He is going to be the 17th guest.
Oh, wow. A man that I definitely know. I know very well the Tribal Cheese. Yes, I do. We certainly acknowledge Bree, the head of the table, and yes, I do. You're having the Tribal Cheese. You're going to do a better job than when I speak to him, because every time I speak with him, I'm usually stumbling, bumbling, rumbling, and fumbling, and you're going to do such a great job that he'll just come to your show going forward.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate the support. But Anyways, moving on. 18th guest of the Wider podcast. He is IMF's Omen Black.
Oh, wow, the boogeyman of the Midwest, the hardcore god. And it is his show here on Sportswire, and you've got Omen Black coming onto your platform. Wow, Omen, he's going onto your show, and it doesn't sound like he's just going to basically come on and like these other guys that he goes on for. There's this guy Silver Wolf, there's this, C2K, there's Tyler Ark, there's so many other shows. There's the Zack Attack show out there, and God bless all these shows, but he usually goes on there and comes on for fun. But I have a feeling that Omen's actually going to come on and he's going to really want to have a conversation with you because he thinks a lot highly of you. I have no doubt. I want to be careful with my words there. He definitely thinks very highly of you there. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear it too. I mean, I'm keen to have him on, and I'm keen to hear all sorts of stories about him. I mean,
he's got a great story. He's got a great guy. He's a guy that's the guy kind of like you started his journey a little over a year and a half ago and just went into it with eyes wide open, and he's all over the place. He's one of the most feared wrestlers, I would say, in the sport, and he's a guy that's become a hardcore. You like the hardcore, you like some of that stuff, and he's become a big guy in that, a big name. All the big names in the world want to wrestle him, and he's also now making it in the IMF, where they're in indoor venues that CJ Black was a part of. Did a great job in his match against C Money, where they're selling like 300-400 tickets a night. I mean, it's really an amazing story Omen has. Leave aside knowing Omen, he's got a story that I think is really one of the more special stories that should be told all the time, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, a federation like IMF is definitely unique, selling 300 to 400 tickets, basically more tickets than most indie feds out there, to be honest.
Oh, I know a lot of companies that we cover in the UK, not our beloved CCW as an example, because they're on par with the IMF, but there's some companies that they're actually asking for donations actually for their company. Now, we don't mind. Yeah, well, they're doing it for different reasons, but it's obviously for good intentions, but they're not selling the amount of tickets that IMF has. So it really shows you that, how far they've come along. And I'm always loving to hear you interview Omen Black. Some of the other shows I tune in and I tune in, I tune out. I'm trying to follow. Skulls is also one of the guys. Skulls Talks. He's had Omen on, but I know with you, it's going to be an interview that I'm going to make sure I tune in each and every second for it. Just like when you had Jack Delta, also when you had Jackson Law, and also a guy that I know but haven't had on. I know him through his work most recently in a company called Explosive Championship Wrestling, where Mr. Law works. And in Aaron Blaze, I hear, is coming back to your platform. You want to talk about Aaron Blaze?
Yes, Aaron Blaze is the next guest on the Wider podcast. He is the 19th guest of the Wider podcast. I've had him on before, back when I used to do the interviews on Instagram Lives.
Yep.
And judging by him, he's had one hell of a journey ever since I last interviewed him. So it's definitely going to be one hell of an interview that I'm looking forward to.
Me too. Aaron Blaze, I know his, a well-traveled name in the world of backyard wrestling. He's from Pennsylvania, but has wrestled, again, kind of like a Jack Delta, kind of like a Jackson Law before Jackson made his home in XCW. So I'm really excited for Aaron Blaze to come onto the platform. And Aaron's a guy that I do know well. And I think I've spoken to Aaron once, but I speak to so many people at this point, I forget what we even said. So maybe I will bring him on one day. But there's somebody else you have coming on here for the first time for the big 2-0. And another guy I know very well, but haven't had a chance to get onto the platform. And you want to talk about who the 20th person is on Sportswire Radio for the Wired Up podcast upcoming?
Yes. The 20th guest is probably one of the biggest guests that I have had on my show. And he is a man that everyone pretty much knows. And that is the Lone Diamond, JJ Stevens.
Absolutely a name that I don't know why I haven't had him on Sportswire, but the thing is, I will say, Ace, I get so many requests, I don't even remember who I spoke to sometimes. So, but that's going to be a real treat to have him on. And I'm looking forward to all that. Obviously, we'll go on your YouTube channel to actually see. I'm going to plug the YouTube page in a little while. We're actually going to put it up on the screen so people can go make sure they hit that sub button. Also, Instagram, but especially on YouTube, you can watch all these fun question, as I always do when it comes to the Wired Up podcast. I want to certainly talk a lot about BWU and the news you broke about an hour and a half ago. Is there anybody else you'd like to interview that's on a list of maybe dream guests that you may want to have onto the platform?
Actually, yes, there is a fair few amount of people that come to mind. I mean, one of the first people that comes to mind is Gabe Sayers. I definitely love to
Oh,
have him on.
you and Gabe look alike a little bit. You know that, right? You and Gabe look a little bit alike. I can make that happen with Gabe. I could certainly
Hmm.
talk to Gabe. Gabe's got a great story, by the way. Great journey.
Yeah, I've seen one of his YouTube videos where he talked about the start of his journey to where he is now, wrestling for UWF and
GTS.
GTS as well. Yes, it's just one hell of a journey that I think he should get out there, and I feel like I should have him on the Wide Up podcast.
Well, you know what? I think that certainly Mr. Sayers will definitely oblige. I'd have no doubt that he would love to come on your podcast. I love all the new guys that are doing it, but I know
Mm.
that you're going to get an endorsement. I can't say who's going to make sure that you get Gabe, but I can guarantee you that I'll put you in touch with Gabe. Basically, I broke the fourth wall there. Anybody else that comes to mind? Anybody else you'd like to speak with that you haven't had a chance to, or it's keeping an eye close to you that you want to talk to?
C Money is actually someone that actually does come to mind. C Money is definitely someone that I would want to have on.
That's an interesting one. C Money is a phenomenal talent. He's had some great matches with some great people. And obviously his match with his brother CJ Black at the King of the Center in a live venue. And they really did a phenomenal job for guys that hadn't wrestled indoors in a live venue to do what they did. I think it speaks to their professionalism. And C Money, and he and CJ Black have come a long way from their early days, going back to the days of, Hillbilly Tilly, who was onto the platform. And I think that would be that's a good answer is C Money. C Money's definitely, that's a good one. I like that you mentioned C Money. Obviously not going to talk about Jason Storm, who you've had on the platform before, because he's retired. So Jason Storm's out of the wrestling business, so you definitely can't mention him. But yeah, C Money's a good one. All right. Well, you know what? I definitely like all that. And you want to watch on YouTube, you can at BWU Backyard Wrestling. We're going to make sure we plug that in a little while here. Ace is doing a phenomenal job. He is also the Triple champion. He is the BWU champion. He is the FWA champion and the Patreon Intercontinental champion. So as I'm going to transition now a little bit into some current events and kind of the sad news that broke a little while ago. But before we do that, what does it mean to you to be a triple champion? I have a lot of guys come on to Sportswire. You came on last time and you talked about that you were going to get more belts. You talked about different things. It's not quite what you said, but it's actually in a way bigger than what you said. But still, you definitely have done some really impressive things. So what does it mean to you to be a triple champion?
Honestly, I was never expecting to be a triple champion in my backyard career. I mean, like you said, a year ago, I didn't know what my future held. I didn't know that I was going to start BWD. I never thought that I was going to travel to a whole other state to wrestle in. And now I am sitting here. I even never thought that I was going to start a Patreon and people actually subscribing to it. But now I'm here. I'm a triple champion and just defending it as much as I can. It's definitely worth what the people want to watch.
Absolutely. And I'm curious on this, and tell me your thoughts, champ. What was the experience like for you for traveling the first time to maybe outside of your comfort zone? We had Jake Matthews on earlier tonight, and Jake has traveled in 8 states, and he's had a unique journey. And he talked about, when I asked him about traveling to different places like Indiana, Texas, for example, and he's a Massachusetts guy here in America. For geographical terms, it's like basically the other side of the country. So what was it like for you the first time to travel and to a place you hadn't been to?
Honestly, it was certainly different. The trip there was a pain in the ass, but it was worth it. It was definitely a whole different environment than it was like for BWDU. I mean, I could pull off better moves than I done, and I could definitely experience it in a whole different way.
What do you take away from that experience to help you in your career going forward?
Strategizing more on using the environment around me and using my surroundings to my advantages in my matches.
Do you feel that there are places that you'd like to travel that you haven't gone yet? Is there places you would like to go wrestle that you maybe realistically can in the future go to? I mean, I'm curious on that question.
Hmm. Actually, yeah. During the Fight Night press conference, an interview asked me about this new wrestling federation in Australia, and that's called Wrestling Zero.
Yep.
And I haven't watched too much of them, but they seem pretty good, and they are actually not that far from me. They're about 2 hours away from me, so I feel like that I I could possibly make a trip over there someday. I can definitely see that happening.
That's interesting. And I guess I'd have to ask you then, what's the word like? I mean, do people know back home that you've got this backyard fed that's had all this success? And, Wrestling Zero, you mentioned, I'm curious, do other feds now know what's going on? And is there, talk of it or different ways to work with it? Because I would think it's a lot smaller, the amount of feds in Australia versus, let's say, like in America, because,
Mm.
within certain states, there's many feds or many types of ways you could wrestle, whether it's semi-pro, underground, you might want to say it, a hybrid of independent, backyard, and underground and pro. And is there like a word of mouth that you guys are out there and having this success? I'm curious.
I reckon so. Yeah. I mean, I reckon after we started BWDU and its progress at the moment, it is definitely more talked about and more impressed than what it was with BEW. I mean, I reckon we've got we're trying to get our name out there as much as we can, like the Wired Up podcast and the matches that we're doing. And I reckon we're definitely pulling it off at the moment, and hopefully we continue to grow as much as we have now.
I have no doubt that you will. And let me say hello to some people because there are people that would like to comment. Speaking of which, I have a question from the management of ROEW, and I want to actually give a big plug to the ROEW because they're on YouTube at ROEW Backyard Wrestling. In fact, I'm actually going to pull up their YouTube channel in a second to make sure people go subscribe to them. And I have a great question. Mr. Reed, if you could wrestle any pro wrestler, who would it be? Also, backyard wrestling dream match as well. And if you want to say CJ Black or C Money, they're in ROEW, you could mention them for bonus points. I'm only kidding. Whoever you like, two-part question. Whoever you like to bring up, you can.
If I could wrestle any pro wrestler, who would it be?
Yeah.
It's actually a good question. I haven't thought too much about it, but someone that does come to mind and someone that does actually grew up in Australia that is a wrestler is Buddy Matthews.
That's a good one. Buddy Matthews is a very good one. Very good
Yes.
one. That's a good one.
But Buddy Matthews and backyard wrestling dream match opponents. Well, pretty much one of my main ones has happened already, and that is Striker. I mean, I faced him at Final
We
Countdown.
spoke about that here, yeah. And well, you mentioned another name you mentioned that I'm going to get to in a few minutes, Jimmy Nash. Jimmy Nash is Jimmy Nash. Anybody else? Anybody else, let's say outside of Australia, any other names that come to mind? Anybody, you've interviewed Jack Delta, you've had CJ Black's here, you've had Jason Storm. Well, he's retired, so you can't wrestle him. You have Jackson Law, you've had some big names. Anybody else in the yard that comes to mind per se? I mean, Buddy Matthews is a great one for pro wrestling, but anybody else in the yard that you'd like to wrestle?
I mean, there's not a lot too much names in Australia that has certain levels of success, and that's why I think some opponents in America I could go up against and have good chemistry with. I haven't really actually put too much thought about it. I mean, one of my main ones is Jack Delta, but that's just theoretically, but never say never. Who knows, maybe he'll come over here one day, or maybe I'll go to him. We could pull off a match.
He travels everywhere. Listen, Jack is now going to 8 states or something like that, and he's going for more. I think more states ahead in the future. And I mean, if there's anybody that would travel, it's Jack Delta. I mean, this man, he posted on Instagram. If you saw his Instagram story, where he was talking about all the airport time he spent. So I mean, if there's anybody that would be comfortable in flying to Australia, I would say it's probably Jack Delta. So if there's anybody that would certainly do it, I would definitely think he'd be Jack Delta, of course, the destructive Jack Delta. And I also want
Yeah.
to plug here our Instagram channel for our friends over at BWU. In fact, I'm going to pull up first the Patreon channel. So if you want to pull up Patreon, we're going to switch this because I can have the magic of technology. I'm going to go like this and then go like that. Oop, there you go. Wrong page. That's the magic of technology. But here you go. I'm going to pull it up here right now. There you go. Patreon page. Want to talk about Patreon for a minute? And if you'd like to support the guys here at over at the BWU, you can do that here a couple different ways. Only $2.50 a month gets you one tier. Another tier gets you $5 a month. You see a whole bunch of different things, and you got dream matches here behind the scenes, booking your matches. Maybe you could book Jack Delta here if you wind up actually joining. For the $7 a month, 750 plan, you can actually book maybe Jack Delta, and then the big tier here get you early access, booking your dream matches, booking match stipulations. So that's. Does that make you nervous? By the way, you got all these stipulations, right? So you got obviously a lot of subscribers out there. You talked about making $50 a month in the press conference. So yeah, are you nervous that somebody could want you in a crazy stipulation that you might not be able to deliver on? That worry you at all yet?
Well, it depends on what the stipulation is, really. I mean, if it's something like, for example, like a casket match or something like that, we can do our best to pull it off. And but if it's like certain stipulations, like an IQUIT match or Extreme Rules, then yeah, we've definitely done it before, and we'll do it again, certainly.
All right. Well, certainly, if you want to find out, that's the Patreon page for the guys here in the BWU. Definitely join them, support them. They're getting close. They want to get to 1,000 subscribers, and they also want to buy a ring. I mean, that's a huge thing we love what you guys do, but to be able to go and get that ring, I mean, that's going to mean so much to the company. And, I know we're getting closer. I know we still got some ways to go, but we're inching closer toward that ring from what I hear.
Yes. Each month, the payment comes in, and we're just taking it one step at a time. And with patience and dedication, we can definitely get to that goal.
I think you are going to get to that goal because I think everybody has a goal. And if you keep going, you're going to definitely get there. And again, YouTube, these guys have almost 900 subscribers, closing in on 1,000. What would that mean to you guys and the rest of the locker room to have 1,000 subscribers?
It's definitely something that I reckon not just me, but everyone else in the locker room, everyone else in the roster, even the general manager, ATK, have definitely earned. We have had a long journey, and we've put in such hard work in these videos and matches, and just to get to 1,000 subscribers, it'll be our first ever time getting to 1,000 subscribers in about nearly, I believe, 3 to 4 years now. Back when we uploaded wrestling on my channel, it helped us get to 1,000 subscribers, and just to do this on our own, it definitely feels like something that we have worked hard for and have earned.
Well, you're going to definitely do that, and I have no doubt that you will. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here. We are here with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He is our second member of our sixth class. He's the 52nd member. He's the triple champion. His name is the one and only Ace Reed. He is the BWU, FWA, and Patreon Intercontinental Champion. He is the host of the Wired Up podcast. And if you're on Sportswire Radio, I would hope that you give us a follow. We're on a number of different platforms. Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Twitch. I'm on Twitch now at Sportswire Radio. YouTube at Sportswire Radio. Closing in on 600 subscribers here on Sportswire. Not quite yet to the fame of Ace Reed, but we're definitely working on that. Instagram. We're here at the Sports Report 2021. We have an internet radio station here also at sportswireradio.org. If you have a podcast, if you want to hear live music, whatever it is, we do that free of charge on behalf of the community. So if you have a dream, you have a vision, you can always be on an internet radio station here anytime you want. We have more coverage coming up here tomorrow, a doubleheader, because I have here coming up to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our first referee, Festus Davis. Festus, of course, is the senior official in XCW. They just came off a huge show, Take Over the World. They're getting ready for Vortex, and they're getting ready for so many other great things ahead. And Festus Davis will be inducted into the Hall of Fame sometime between 7:30 Eastern Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. I'm also going to be here at 10:30 p.m., 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to induct Alan Michaels and Shane Davidson into the Hall of Fame. And then we're going to watch one of their matches with the nemesis James Taylor, and we're all going to be on the call. It's going to almost be like a crowded room. I mean, you obviously have commentators in your company, so it's going to certainly be a real crowded studio here tomorrow on Sportswire Radio. So we're going to have 3 more Hall of Famers join you, Ace Reed, into the Hall of Fame. That'll be, of course, Festus Davis between 7:30 and 8, XCW Senior Official, to talk about all things related here upcoming to XCW. Obviously, their season's about to kick off. Take Over the World just took place. Also, at 10:30, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to have Armageddon Shane Davidson, the artist formerly known as Shane Davidson, and Alan Michaels, the trendsetter, to be into the Hall of Fame alongside me to join in the ceremonies is James Taylor. We're going to call their last match in TBW. But right now, we are here with Ace Reed. Now, Ace, before I get to current events in the world of BWU, as I do with all of the previous Hall of Famers, only if you insist, Ace Reed, I actually have something to present to you that would kind of acknowledge that you're in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So for those that are listening and watching, where all wrestling matters here, would you like me to present something on the screen that would maybe showcase you as an official member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
I have a certain feeling of what it is, and sure, go ahead. I'm excited.
All right.
To see
Well,
what
you know
it is.
what? We don't want to spoil the fun. We never like spoilers here on Sportswire, but we're going to do it anyway. But there you have it, Ace Reed. Officially, this certificate of appreciation has been given to you with the Sportswire Radio logo. My John Hancock, my title, today's date. Well, it should be March 10th your time, but it's March 9th my time here. But the fact of the matter is, nevertheless, you have been inducted as the 52nd member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And as I always do, we like to present something official with the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. WWE has a Hall of Fame, but they let just the people speak that get inducted. Maybe they have a picture taken at WrestleMania. But here on Sportswire, we like to go the extra mile. Not only do we give you something, we'll also, after we're off the air, add your photo to the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame section. We'll also wind up giving you this as a physical copy so you can have it. And again, as I always say, baseball has a Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Football, American football, has one in Canton, Ohio. Basketball has one in Springfield, Massachusetts. Hockey has one in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. But now you can say all wrestling that matters has a Hall of Fame here on Sportswire Radio. Maybe I should add, does cricket have a Hall of Fame? Because cricket's very big in Australia. So maybe there should be a cricket Hall of Fame. And I wonder where the cricket Hall of Fame is. But enough about that. Sportswire Radio has a Hall of Fame for all wrestling that matters. And this is officially showing, Ace, that you're in the Hall of Fame. And congratulations one more time.
Thank you, Mr. Bryce. Like I said, I feel honored. I feel like I've earned it, and I'm definitely going to print that. I'm going to laminate it, and I'm definitely going to hang it up on my wall.
Well, you are very kind. I appreciate that very much, and I'm so humbled when so many of our Hall of Famers tell us that, and that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the many fans of Sportswire Radio and what we do here, which is all wrestling that matters. But, Ace, I know it has been such a celebratory night, and it still is a special night here. You've obviously gotten into the Hall of Fame. You've taken your place in history. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, we must talk about the news that before we went on the air, you announced that you have an injury now, and you suffered at the hands of Jimmy Nash at the last BWU High Madness show. And we have to talk about why and what happened, and also what is the future of the 3 championships that you hold currently.
Wow, that took a whole different angle.
I know it's a loaded question. We had such a celebratory night, but the facts is that before we went on the air, you talked about the fact that High Rise Madness, that unfortunately you suffered a foot injury from Jimmy Nash, a man that you also mentioned at the Fight Night press conference is a man that you wanted, and you got him, but he certainly did a number on you, and you have to decide now, because you have this injury that you're going to be out for several weeks, and what happens and what is the future of you in these championships?
So I'm going to give more context to people that are watching. The latest episode of High Rise Madness, Jimmy Nash attacked me with the BW Championship, and he put my foot underneath a weight bench press, and he dropped it on my foot as hard as he possibly could, which I had to wait till the next day to go to the doctors, and I couldn't sleep that night. I was clenching my foot in pain. I was on the ground. I was screaming out of agony, and I got told that I have got a fractured foot and I will be out of action for 6 to 8 weeks. And I got told by the general manager, ATK, that I will have to relinquish the BWDU, FWA, and Patreon Intercontinental Championships. But I never said I was going to relinquish them. I am still going to hold on to them. And next episode of High Rise Madness, I want Jimmy Nash, and I want him at Backyard Kingdom. I've been trying to get my hands on him for 4 years now. Not even 4, half a decade. Half a decade I've been waiting for this match. Half a decade I've been waiting to get my hands on him. I have never pinned him to the count of 3. And that is something that I want to do.
But wait a minute, though. You're going to make this challenge here live on Sportswire Radio, but you're injured and you're in severe pain right now, and the doctors haven't cleared you to return to the ring. I mean, what's going to happen with these championships? Are they going to have to basically, like, I guess, take them out of your dead hands? Are they going to have to, physically remove them? I mean, you had these championships here at the beginning of the show, but I have to ask you, I mean, so what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to be forced by management to relinquish these titles or what?
They can force me as much as they want to relinquish those championships, but I am going to refuse as much as I can. I mean, even if I have to go into a match at Backyard Kingdom with Jimmy Nash with a fractured foot, I'll do it. I mean, it's not the first time someone went into a match injured. I mean, have a look at The Rock versus Cena. The Rock was injured in his match, but he didn't give
Seth
up.
Rollins most recently, I mean, they were talking about him with a meniscus tear. I mean, and it's still unclear what he's dealing with the injury. Shawn Michaels years ago, WrestleMania 14, after the Royal Rumble against The Undertaker, had a herniated disc in his back and was supposed to have been, formally retired from his career and was on so many, I think, painkillers and so many different types of, medication just to go out there and be able to wrestle. So, I mean, we've seen this before. I mean, time and time again, but I mean, you talked about the severe pain, the agony that you're going in with your foot. I mean, are you concerned that if something goes wrong here in this match with Jimmy Nash, if this is something you want, that you could permanently, your career could be severely jeopardized by this? No?
I am willing to take that risk. If it means that I get a match with him one-on-one, then I will do it. I have been waiting for this match with me and him for 5 years now. He's the reason why BEW ended. He's the reason
You talked
why
about that in the press conference. You talked about that the reason things went the way they went is because of Jimmy Nash. And what he did to you at High Rise Madness, severely injuring you. This has to be more personal than any. I know you talked about Stryker when you were here last a couple months ago, but this has to be more personal than anything you've ever wanted in your career. No,
You are right. It is definitely personal. It is personal to a level where if we see each other in public, we don't care if it's in public or private or anywhere in the world. We'll just bash each other's heads in.
I mean, are you concerned? And I hate to ask this question because I know it's a celebratory night, but I have to ask you, champ. Are you concerned though that you could do something that you're not thinking clearly, and this is more on emotions, and you could be making a big mistake?
I have been asked that question before, and
I'm sure you continue to get that question because it's a legitimate one. Because you're dealing with this significant injury. It's supposed to take you out for several weeks, and basically, even though you're not cleared, you want to still go out there and wrestle. But this is really about somebody that you basically blame for the demise of BEW, and you blame for the demise of really companies that you believed in, and you've talked about wanting to wrestle this man. But you get him not 100%. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, is this something you could regret?
Even if it does damage my foot and I will be out of action for more time, it is definitely worth it. I mean, I have got a certain stipulation that Nash cannot refuse. And the next episode of High Rise Madness, I want a segment with him. ATK, make that happen. I want Nash on the next episode of High Rise Madness. And I promise I will not put my hands on him, but I want to speak to him man to man.
Wait a minute. Time out for a second. Ace Reed, you are certainly the triple champion. I concede all that. You are the Wired Up podcast guy. You obviously have your reasons. But are you still wanting to show up to High Rise Madness, even though you just told us a few minutes ago that you're in so much pain with your foot? You're screaming in agony all through the night and you're having trouble walking. I mean, we saw you in the video on Instagram. Are you sure you still want to show up to High Rise Madness where, I mean, Jimmy Nash he might destroy the other foot and then you won't even be able to walk on your own 2 feet. I mean, are you sure you want to do this and show up to High Rise Madness?
I mean, like I said, I've been asked that question before, and I will answer. I am 110% sure that I want to show up on the next episode of High Rise Madness, and I want Jimmy Nash in the main event of Backyard Kingdom, and I have got a stipulation that he cannot refuse.
So even if you're not medically cleared by that time, you still want him. Just want to make sure.
Yes, even if I'm not medically cleared, I'll still go into this match. This will probably be the only opportunity ever. I mean, the man has only showed up to the show twice out of what the many times that he was meant to show up. That's like the same with BEW. He took 4 months to show up to Front Yard Mania 5, and he never did. I mean, he was meant to... Fun fact, he was actually meant to defend the BEW championship at the pay-per-view Heathens, but he said to me that he couldn't do it because he had no motivation, even though he was the world champion.
Was he Shawn Michaels when he lost his smile and had to go home? And I mean, that sounds to me almost like hogwash almost. It doesn't sound like it makes sense. I mean, would you be sure he'll show up to this one, though?
Oh, I'll make sure he shows up. I will make sure that he shows up. And it's going to be a hard thing to say, but Jimmy Nash, even though you try to injure me, you are the reason BEW ended, and you are the reason through many things why BEW was not as successful.
I know it's a lot. I know you're going through an injury. I know you're in a lot of pain. And I know that this is a lot because this conversation turned. This was a celebratory night. This was historic, monumental. And we brought up that video you posted. And, I could tell that this is different. You wanted Stryker, but there was respect with Stryker. With Nash, you basically said that you blame him for all the shortcomings and downfalls, and especially with BEW. I mean, this is where everything's on the line. I mean, you could be risking it all. You could be, further jeopardizing your career, by doing this.
If jeopardizing my career is the cost of taking out Nash, then it is worth it. I am ready for all the risks that I'm taking. I am ready for all the risks that I'm going to take, and I am ready for this match. I've thought about this overnight, and I gave an answer. I'm not going to relinquish all 3 of my championships, and I am going into Backyard Kingdom against Jimmy Nash.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here live on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. Ace Reed is saying that he's not vacating his 3 championships, including the BWU title, the FWA, and the Patreon Intercontinental title, and he is going to find a way to wrestle Jimmy Nash, a man that he has wanted for nearly half a decade, and it looks like we're going to find out very soon on the BWU's YouTube channel. You can actually check it out right there. Hit that sub button, go out and support them. You got a whole bunch of content there. The guys are also trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. They're also trying to get money for a ring. So let's support those that support us here on Sportswire Radio. Ace is also the host of the Wired Up podcast, and you want to make sure that you go support them because your mind will certainly be nowhere without following these guys. When I first got to know him, I think he had 300, 400 subscribers. Now he's at close to 900. So let's go out and support those that support us. And my buddy who's back for round 2, Ethan Sorensen, we're doing great. Ace Rhea has been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Ethan, he's our 52nd member, second member of the 6th class, and he is also the triple champion, but also he is a double threat. He's a maybe two host person or two wrestling star person. I don't know what you want to call him. Can't call him a two sports star. You can call him also here a two, maybe a tool person, two-dimensional star. There you go. Our buddy Jeremy is a pro basketball player. And where is he playing pro basketball, Ethan? Jeremy is a pro basketball player, so we give him a little shout-out, obviously. Thank you, and say hello to Jeremy. Jeremy is a pro basketball player. Ethan Sorensen, thank you for the kind words. Okay, so we got about 20 or so minutes here, Mr. Ace Reed. Obviously, Ace is dealing with this very difficult injury right now, and we want to hopefully have that he has a speedy recovery. But I got to ask you a fun question here. And I know we obviously talked about Wired Up Podcast. We inducted you into the Hall of Fame. We got serious with obviously what happened with you and Jimmy Nash. You were very successful against Mute, and you certainly, were in a lot of pain there with Mute. Even all the blood we saw rushing through it took you almost like 20 minutes to remove all the blood there with all those towels and such. But I have to ask you, did you get a chance at all to go to Elimination Chamber? I mentioned this when you kept coming on Sportswire in the streams. How far do you live from where Elimination Chamber was? Was there any consideration of actually going to the show?
I really did want to go to the show. I'm not gonna lie, but from where I am and where it was hosted, Perth, that's pretty much the whole other side of the country. So it would have taken a few days to just travel there by car.
My God. Oh, wow. So you're talking like a journey. That's a journey on the other side of the country almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was there any friends of yours or anybody you know that actually went to the show?
No, not really. Not really.
So hopefully, maybe WWE comes back and you get a chance. Would there be any venue that would be closer to, let's say, that you could go to a WWE show, or is there anything like that that's close by?
Actually, there is. The arena where they hosted Super Showdown back in 2018 with Triple H versus The Undertaker.
Yes.
That is about an hour drive away from here. So hopefully they do a show sometime over here.
As somebody who's from Australia, I don't know if you're a big Rhea Ripley fan. It doesn't matter if you are or aren't. But what does it mean to you and maybe to those in the country that are aspiring wrestlers or, guys like yourself, now a Hall of Famer and a triple champion, to see Rhea Ripley main event from the country that she's from? I mean, what does that mean to you to see a homegrown talent come home and main event in for the biggest wrestling company in the world? What does that mean to you and others? What was the talk about that?
Honestly, I was really happy that it happened. I mean, Australia doesn't really get as much recognition as it does with wrestling-wise and whole other things, pretty much, even topics outside of wrestling. But just to see someone like Rhea Ripley coming into her home country, Australia, and to main event one of the biggest wrestling companies in the world, pretty much the biggest wrestling company in the world, it's something that I'm really happy with, and it's something that I actually have been waiting for ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, the British Bulldog, when I was growing up, or was a little kid, I should say, I take that back, was a big deal when he was from the UK, and the WWF at the time would come to the UK, and to a lesser extent, Bret Hart in his days, obviously being from Canada and how much they meant to their countries. But to see Australia, which has never really had that type of wrestler, to be able to have the moment where people can say, you know what, I look up to Rhea Ripley and I really want to be like her and I want to go out and be a wrestler. I think it really gives, a lot of people that motivation that, they can go out and do it too. They can go and find a way to get into WWE and go out there and be a star in a main event. And to a lesser extent, Grayson Waller and obviously Bronson Reed. And, but for them to be able to see a Rhea Ripley, have you seen an uptick in interest in wrestling the last several months? I mean, with Rhea Ripley being, the women's champion on the Raw end and being a main eventer and just how much she's, you mentioned Buddy Matthews as well. Obviously, he's a huge part of things. I mean, but, have you seen an uptick in interest now with Rhea Ripley with the run she's had?
Yeah, I definitely see it. I mean, it's something that I was not expecting from Rhea Ripley. I mean, before she joined the Judgment Day, she has had one hell of a career main eventing WrestleMania, I believe, beating Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship
last year. Yep.
Yes, and it was just to see how much, she has, what's the word?
She's evolved.
Evolved, yes, that's the word. Evolved.
Yeah. I'm never tongue twisted for words, so don't worry, I got you. But also, before I move on here, do a few other things. Ethan gives a shout out to Jeremy on your YouTube channel. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I think you meant to say I gave him a shout out. Does Jeremy have a channel? But if he does have a channel, or if you have a channel, Ethan, or if you don't have a channel, make sure you support BWU. And if you're out there watching this, later or tomorrow, make sure you support these guys because they're doing a great job, and we want to hit them to 1,000 subscribers and hope they can get their goal of getting a ring, because getting a ring is a big deal. Getting a ring, we've seen it with the guys in AWL that they're going to a ring, and they had their first indoor show today. XCW is an example of a company that started on the ground, went to the mat, the trampoline, then had the ring, then we're doing indoor shows. So you're going to get there. So I have no doubt we're going to definitely help you get there. And we're going to do whatever we can. So obviously, before I get to closing thoughts, obviously this has been a historic night. But is there anything else you want to cover when it comes to BW? Obviously, pay-per-view is very successful. Premium live event. You retain the title against Mute, but now we've got this injury to deal with, and we'll see what happens with you and Nash. But is there anything else you want to touch upon when it comes to BWU before we move on? And big shout out to the commentary team, by the way. Those commentators, they're doing a real good job.
Thank you. Actually, yeah, there is a few special announcements that I would like to announce on Sportswire Radio.
You're welcome to do that.
That is, we have a pay-per-view coming in April, and all of management have agreed if we get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of March, then we will bring that pay-per-view back one more time. And I'm not going to say what the pay-per-view is, but I will say it is an old BEW pay-per-view that we used to do.
Wow. So we need 160 subscribers between now and March 31st. So it has to be March 31st, midnight your time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a big thing. I mean, I hope we get there. I mean, you said we got now we said 200 subscribers you guys have got in the last 2 months, right? Is that about right?
Yeah,
200?
Yeah, sounds about that. And when we released Fight Night, we gained about, I believe, 20 to 30 subscribers, around that margin, in 5 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I think you got a shot, because I can tell you firsthand with Sportswire that I've gained about, you said 200 you gained in about a month or two. I've gained about 250 in the last, I want to say, maybe 4 months. I want to say in the last month, I've gained just about 100. So I think that's about 100 in that time frame. So I think you got a shot. You know what I mean? I actually gave you one extra sub because I have a burner YouTube account. I can't say why I have it, but it's non-wrestling related. It's basically I have a Gmail account, and I just have a dummy YouTube account. So I gave you one more with that. But if you are out there, if you are an Ethan Sorensen, anybody that watches it, go out and support Ace Reed, because they want to do something really cool. We want to support them. Also, go support them on Patreon. Get merchandise. Maybe merchandise is the next way to go. So everybody's got a Redbubble store. Everybody's got Etsy. I mean, there's so many ways to get revenue. But I have a good question from Ethan Sorensen. I'm going to let him ask this question. You have a favorite match in your career so far?
Favorite match? And yeah, I actually do. And that's me versus Striker Final Countdown. I mean, he brung out the best in me, and I brung out the best in him. And if you want to go check out that match, go check out the BWDU page.
In fact, I'm so glad I couldn't have asked for a better plug because I'm going to take this off. And if you actually want to watch some of these shows, you can actually do that right here. There's a whole slew of them. So if you want to support, whether it's press conferences, whether it's obviously the announcement for the 800 subscribers, all the different things. If you want to watch the final countdown, it's actually right there. So, you're welcome to watch all these shows. The guys have got over 20,000 views already, and they've only got 34 videos. So if you do the math, they're averaging just about 600 plus views per video. So that shows you that people like BWU. They definitely want to hear more. They want to see more. And we want to support Ace Reed. And obviously, we wish him a speedy recovery. I'm still not sure why he wants this with Jimmy Nash, but he kind of told us why in a way. And we'll see if it's exactly what he wants. And we're all going to check that out here. And also want to remind people one more time, he is our 52nd member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. All right, so we've got some of that out of the way. Obviously, we'll see if you get the 1,000 subscribers. We have no doubt that you're going to be back on here very soon to talk about Jimmy Nash and talk about other things. But is there anything else that you might want to say, or any final words for Jimmy Nash, let's say, or anything that he might want to ponder before maybe you guys have another chat coming up at the next High Rise Madness?
Well, my final words to Nash before I see him once again. Nash, you're a disgrace to the backyard wrestling community. You're a disgrace to the Australian backyard wrestling community. You are a disgrace to BWDU. I don't even know why they hired you. I don't even know why they brought you back. But next episode, I will see you then, and I will give you a stipulation that you cannot refuse. And I wish I could tell you, Thomas Bryce, but I think it's best to wait until next episode.
No, actually, I'm going to actually do you a favor, Ace, because I tell this all the time to all the people that come onto the platform at this point. If you have something that you're going to say on the air, you don't want to say it, don't say it, because A, you'll get in trouble, and then the word will travel and say it's my fault. So that's why we want people to actually tune in to your BWU YouTube channel. Also check you out on Instagram, also Patreon. Make sure you support BWU and everything that you guys do. Backyard Wrestling Down Under. Make sure you support all the great things that these guys do. They definitely are about all wrestling that matters. And Jimmy Nash. Also, Ethan says, I don't have a YouTube channel. I just watch you. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that. You're welcome to. And anybody else, if you have any friends, go check them out. Go support them. They are on YouTube, as I stated. So, Ethan, if you may not have a YouTube channel, tell your friends that do have a YouTube channel to go out there and support Ace Reed and Backyard Wrestling Down Under in one of our favorite countries. And people tell me all the time, one of the places they want to visit is Australia. So hopefully if you're out there in Australia, although visit in Australia when it's more like December or January, because now it's just about the end of the good weather. So we're just about now kind of going toward into fall and winter. So, how is fall coming up for you guys? Is it going to be really cold, or what is fall and winter like for you guys again? What is the
outlook? We are still having a few hot days, so I guess you can kind of say summer's still not over yet. But yeah, it's going pretty good at the moment. We're at a good pace so far.
Okay, so usually when the weather gets cold for you guys, when around the month of May, I would say, right? May
yeah,
June?
Around May. Yes, May.
Okay, it's kind of so weird because here in New York, May is like, okay, now I can put my shorts back on. I can go out in a t-shirt, and although this winter here in New York, real quick, it's been so mild. I've had days that I was sweating. It was like this was like the most warm. I don't know if it's the world that's getting warmer, but whatever it might be, I'll save that conversation for maybe like National Geographic. But I will say that winter here in New York, aside from a couple of weeks, was a walk in the park. And now that we're coming into further warmer weather, we're actually going to be even warmer this week. So I can't wait. I don't even like the cold weather anymore. I just want to be outside warm so I can watch more backyard wrestling. So that's what we're looking forward to. And you guys are a part of it. But obviously, Ace, it has been an absolute pleasure as always. I want to turn it over to you. It's been a historic night, and I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and congratulations, and thank you for all you've done here. And I know that you're going to definitely do a great job. When I say something stupid on Sportswire Radio and you become the man that becomes the host of the platform, you'll take us to even greater heights. But until then, I pass the baton to you, temporarily, I might say, but the floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
I've actually got one more special announcement that I reckon it'll take you by surprise, Thomas Bryce.
Okay, give it to me.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to everyone that has been supporting Sportswire Radio so far. This guy definitely does a really good job at what he does. And make sure you guys go check out BWDU as well. And the announcement is going to be really shocking. It's going to be something
Okay.
that I'm not prepared to announce. But
Okay.
Ace Reed, the hardcore kid, when my foot eventually heals up, I will start training for professional wrestling.
Whoa. You want to talk about a bombshell? Ladies and gentlemen, that's a shoot. We didn't talk about that live tonight. Ace Reed is actually, in a matter of weeks, is going to be on his way to training to be a professional wrestler. Buddy Matthews, watch out. Grayson Waller, you definitely won't have much of a Waller effect when it comes to the Wired Up podcast. Bronson Reed, focus on fatherhood. And Rhea Ripley, well, you can definitely be Dom's mammy, but definitely, though, you might want to stay far away from Ace Reed when he becomes a professional wrestler. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this guy might be the hardcore king. He might have put his body through all different types of things, ladders, tables, all other types of hardcore assortments. Definitely on his way to being a Jimmy Controversy. Definitely being on his way to a Gabe Sayers, Mikey Anarchy, Hardcore Obey, Mac 10. But Omen Black, maybe even, who knows. Or is that Ace Reed is going to eventually hit a professional wrestling ring near you. And that's not a pipe bomb. That's a spoiler. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's really, I think, a way to close out a show. And that's why you want to follow Ace Reed on his pro wrestling journey, all those different links below, and support him on Patreon. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, by the next time we speak with him, he'll be 100% close to it. He'll have his match with Jimmy Nash and maybe even talk about that journey of hitting those bumps and training at a wrestling school. So all great stuff there. And to boot, he can go into pro wrestling school saying, "I'm already a Hall of Famer." So hopefully they don't go too easy on him. But no, I'm only kidding. But Ace, congratulations. A rising tide will always lift all boats. You are definitely that. I'm looking forward to those Wired Up podcasts. Definitely tag me on all those names. Obviously, especially 3 of the first 4 I know very well, and Cheese, Omen, and Aaron Blaze. And congratulations for now on keeping those triple belts. And we'll see what Jimmy Nash has to say about it and all. And I'm looking forward to, again, you hitting pro wrestling school and talking about that very, very soon. And congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Bryce. I appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He is our 52nd member, second member of the 6th class. He is the host of the Wired Up podcast. He is the reigning defending BWU, FWA, and Patreon Intercontinental Champion. His name is Ace Reed. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. If you're on Sportswire Radio, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. I'll be back here 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time to induct our first referee into the Hall of Fame, senior official Festus Davis, who also had his final match against Michael Christian at the XCW All Access Wrestling page on YouTube. So you can talk about that with us. And also, Festus is going to talk about the season that's about to take place in XCW. They had a new show, Take Over the World, just took place. So Festus Davis here, 7:30 p.m., also 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, to be inducted into our Hall of Fame, Alan Michaels and Shane Davidson. Plus, we're going to call their match that they had at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling's All Hallows Eve. It'll be, once again, trendsetter Alan Michaels, Shane Davidson in the Hall of Fame. James Taylor will be joining me on commentary. Plus, throughout the ceremonies, it'll be one you won't want to miss, along with Festus Davis. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. All the number one. Get a global reaction to the Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. And go follow Ace Reed in the BWU channels. And I'll see everybody tomorrow on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters.